Welcome to the Sportscast from the Queen City, also known as Cincinnati, Ohio. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Bengals getting another dub, and a little bit of college football things happened. Some cool stuff, some interesting stuff, and some new rankings. We're going to talk about the Bengals first, and we're going to say, congratulations, Cincinnati Bengals. You won the first battle of Ohio. So you got a second one later on this season, but it's good to get the boogeyman off.
Let's throw our condolences to Deshaun Watson. Man ruptured his Achilles. You hate to see it to any athlete, and I just kind of want to say to anyone that was cheering or booing, Brown fan or even Bengal fan wise, or any other fan, like you got to be better. Like, yes, the man has a bad background, but he's still an athlete who gave his all to that team. Like, I think we all have to show a shred of decency and feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, he might not be a perfect citizen, to say the least. Especially not towards of a certain gender, but it doesn't, reflect good on us if we're not being good citizens, you know, as a player. It's not a good thing. Obviously, it sucks, especially since he wasn't trying to be a bad football quarterback. It just, you know, a year off, and also might be like a Cleveland curse. Ohio's cursed a little bit, so that could be part of it. But
Cleveland's quarterback history is also cursed.
but judging him purely as a player, obviously, terrible thing. As a human being, that's something else. Like that's not for me to judge.
Right.
I'm not in I'm not a lawyer or anything like that. I'm not even going to like attempt to judge someone when I'm not even perfect myself. So, um,
I just
other than
felt
that,
that had to be addressed because I saw so much about it and I just had to get that off my chest to let everyone know. Like any human being or any athlete that has stuff like that, like we gotta do better and just be sad for them or with them realistically because you got to put yourself in their shoes. If you're not a football player, if you're a female or any other gender that has never played a sport or have played a sport and it may not have been football, imagine yourself in his shoes where you put your whole being into that moment and then it's all that whole season then gets taken away in a second. So that's really all I needed to get off my chest. But yes, the Bengals and Browns had a good fight for a game, I'll be honest. But I think the thing that the Bengals did well was kind of mixing it up on offense. They ran it a decent amount and passed it and kind of just splashed stuff here and there in their offense. It wasn't like running the ball five or six times or two different series, just straight runs. It was a good mixture of a few passes to a few runs in each series, and I thought that that was really good to see.
yeah, the Bengals played pretty well. I would also say that the it was a little bit of a handicap for the Browns, going down two quarterbacks, then having to resort to the emergency quarterback of the game, James Winston, who's arguably a, you know, high-end backup,
I was gonna
borderline,
say
low-end
he's
starter.
serviceable.
He's a good I personally think he's a pretty decent quarterback, especially nowadays. You got quarterbacks that can't even, you know, stay on the field.
A lot of people may not even know that he led a season in passing yards, and it wasn't
Yeah.
his rookie year. It was when he was in Tampa Bay. He led a season. He had the most passing yards of quarterbacks.
He is a streaky player, to say the least. He has his highs, he has his lows. Um, I think that the Bengals secondary did a good enough job, especially having you know, play against three different quarterbacks in the same game. That's kind of difficult for the average player just to prepare for one quarterback, let alone three different ones with three different play styles. So they played very well. Um, Geno Stone got hurt at the end of the game. I will say it looks like he dodged the bullet.
Yeah.
Nothing's too serious. And so I think if he would have went down, the Bengals probably would have been in the market for a safety,
I'll
a
be
la
honest,
a Geno's.
the injury I was kind of surprised about because I haven't seen a player get injured just by colliding, like injure a knee just by just colliding with a teammate where he did with Von Bell. It kind of I was kind of surprised and like trying to figure out how and where he got hurt.
Yeah,
So,
it's
I
kind of
mean, yeah,
weird.
he went down. It was just weird.
The human body is just a weird thing in general. Especially on the football field where they're pretty much running about 20 miles per hour, pretty much a car crash every
Yeah.
single time. So any hit is gonna be a possible injury. So, I will say the Bengals really dodge a bullet because they don't have to invest any trade capital, any draft capital or any players to trade
I
for a
don't know
safety.
if I don't know if they'd feel the need to trade with Jordan Battle, but I do understand where you're coming from. Like, me personally, I'm comfortable with Jordan Battle. There may be Bengals fans that aren't, but he's kind of shown me enough to where I'd feel fine with him being back there to take over for Geno Stone, even if it would have been for a few weeks for Geno Stone to kind of recover and get back healthy. Like, I would have been okay with it.
I'm going to talk a little. The AFC North has shaped up to be a pretty interesting uh sort with the Ravens and the Steelers leading the charge in the AFC
So I
North
gotta
at
ask,
5 and
what are
2.
your thoughts on the Steelers just instantly replacing Justin Fields?
He if you look at his stats, if you only look at his um passing stats and his they're pretty pedestrian. I know people are saying he had 10 touchdowns and like one interception. Half of those were rushing touchdowns and half of them were passing touchdowns. And he might have had one interception, but he had four fumbles. So he still had like a 10 and 5. It wasn't very good. Um Russell Wilson, he's pretty much, an old veteran quarterback that can, if you give him time, he can make the plays on time. And that's pretty much what a lot of coaches are looking for in their quarterback, is to get the ball out on time, operate the offense in pretty much a timely and an efficient manner. Um and Russell Wilson pretty much did that, not at the beginning of the game, but as he kind of I guess warmed himself up and shook a little bit of the rust off. He started to see a little bit of that old savviness of of a veteran quarterback, operating an offense really uh, as intended.
I was just curious about it because, like, I thought that Justin Fields was doing good enough. Obviously, as you said, 10 and 5 if you make the fumbles line up with interceptions, but like, I, it just felt weird to me because as some of the other quarterbacks that talk about this stuff, I saw Cam Newton's video talking about it where it's like you take a guy like Justin Fields who was there from the beginning until he got benched and the guys vibe with him and then you just move him around and just basically automatically start Russ like you were just waiting for Russ to get cleared and feel right and then put him in you know, Cam Newton said it, and I kind of understood where he was coming from, where like guys talk in the locker room, so you could essentially mess up a whole lot of chemistry with a lot of that stuff if you just instantly start Russ, or that was your plan the whole time and you were just waiting, and you did it at a point where there could have been a lot of chemistry with Justin Fields and the other offensive guys. So I think it's something that could play in down the line possibly if Russ starts hitting that, that bad groove that he was in for a while, which is why a lot of fans and play and other analysts that are out there kind of were wondering what he would do going into the season before he landed in Pittsburgh. So we'll just have to see.
Um, I feel like it's a little bit different because the head coach is Mike Tomlin, of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin is pretty much revered as a well-respected head coach in the league. And I think that the receivers kind of understood that, yeah, Justin Field did a decent job, but I want to, I want to catch more passes. You know, a lot of the Justin Fields experience is you might get some good plays, good highlight throws, but a lot of times he's not getting the ball out on time. He's not getting the ball to receivers. Receivers want the receivers want the ball. And Russell Wilson can do that as evident in previous stops. Um, he might have had like some rough patches in Denver, but he wasn't like horrible at the end of his tenure. A lot of that was, you know, team politics, Sean Payton wanting his injury clause taken off and things of that nature. Ended up sitting him the rest of the year, not wanting to play him. And now he's on the Steelers, which seems to be a pretty good fit. He's got um good skill position players. He's got George Pickens, he's got Najee Harris, he's got Pat Freiermuth. Uh Darnell Washington seems to be a young tight end that could be a piece. So they got weapons and they got a defense to really carry that team, pretty much as every Steelers team for the past 5 years has done. Really good defense. All you need is a solid, competent offense um, that can move the ball down the field. So I think that they're in a good spot. I know the Ravens, they're also in a great spot. Derrick Henry has become essentially Derrick Henry again, in a lot of
It
people's
seems like
eyes.
their coordinator found out that he has Mark Andrews, so that's also positive for him.
Yeah, and the Bengals are chipping their way back into just a hunt. The Cleveland Browns seem to be a lost cause. They're probably going to be in the quarterback market next year in this year's draft, and we'll have to see what happens from there. But obviously,
It's
there's
going to be real
three teams
interesting.
competing.
I've seen if they're going to be in the quarterback hunt, I think it's something that is going to be hard for the Browns because as I've seen Adam Schefter say on Pat McAfee's show, the Browns are hit with the contract they gave Deshaun Watson. No matter what, they have like 150 or 160 something million. That's no matter what they do with him, that will be in that they have to pay. Even if they trade him, they have to pay that. So like if they do get a quarterback and then do something with Deshaun, like they're still paying Deshaun. The team that they trade him to will not pay that. So it's going to be interesting. I also thought that Thompson Robinson wasn't too bad. I just think that, he's a young quarterback. He may have struggled just reading some of the stuff that the Bengals were doing. So I mean, it'll definitely be interesting to look at. It's just something that I think the Browns just kind of shot themselves in the foot, figuratively speaking, here with Deshaun Watson's contract.
Yeah, they pretty much set their franchise back quite a bit. You never know how a player is going to end up being when they sign him. Obviously, they were signing him in hopes that he would be that superstar quarterback that was in Houston. Obviously, not the case. They gave him a lot of money, and that money seems to be just misused. But um, there's the NFL is going to keep rolling, and they're going to have to get a quarterback probably in the draft so they can have someone cheap at the quarterback position, but obviously they're probably going to have to roll Jameis the rest of the way, barring injury. So
Him
I
and
want to
Dorian
get
Thompson
to a little bit
Robinson,
of the
barring
college
Thompson
football,
Robinson's stuff.
uh, some of the college football craziness over the weekend.
Yes. Tennessee beating Alabama. Tennessee beating Alabama is a big one. That was one that we had talked about last episode. Tennessee, a team that I don't think should anyone should be shocked by with how good they are. Um, they've kind of been that team all year from what I've seen. They're a team that you just can't sleep on. And Alabama, this is now I think the second time that Alabama's lost. Correct me if I'm
Can you
wrong.
say that?
Alabama's second loss or third.
That is their second loss of the
Okay, yeah, that's what
season.
I thought. And they're both of the losses were top 25.
One was against Vanderbilt and one was against Tennessee, or
So one
Vols, against the
non-ranked and
Vols.
one ranked. Okay. So, I mean, Alabama now both of them were SEC teams. SEC is a difficult conference, and to all the Big Ten people that try and fight it, I'm sorry. That's just the SEC is just a super hard conference. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. Now, NIL has spread it out, but the SEC teams just go out there and it looks like they just want to kill each other. Like, I'm sorry. That's just like the defenses just look like they just want to go out there and kill everybody. So, it is what it is. But aside from that, yeah, Texas also lost, and they doubled up Texas as a score. So, you know, um, again, they pulled Quinn Ewers because of the score, from what I remember seeing. So,
They also put Archie Manning for it was a series, but they put Quinn Ewers back in because um the Arch Manning didn't provide the spark that they needed. Quinn Ewers got them back in the game. And pretty much it was 20 to nothing in the first half, if I recall correctly. And then uh Georgia was able to get a few a few points, about 10 points more, kind of just to solidify the victory.
and Arch
Um
is just a freshman, right?
Arch, I think, is a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, okay. So he's still got time.
Actually, he
So it's
might be
not.
he's a sophomore. Never mind. He is a sophomore.
Are you sure?
Yes, because he's next year, the 2026 draft is where he's projected to be in.
Okay. ESPN's got him listed as a freshman.
Okay, so
He's
hey,
either a freshman or a sophomore, one of the two,
either way, he's projected to be in the
in that 2026
2026
draft. Yeah.
draft that everyone's kind of looking at because no one's really liking the quarterbacks in this upcoming draft. So,
Quinn Ewers would be in the draft, right, if he leaves? Or does he
yeah,
still have a okay. Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's a couple names from the college world. Like Quinn Ewers leaves, that'll be someone, but other than that, there's obviously not many to look at.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
The Texas loss, especially after being the new number one team. Also, that is a big blow to
yes.
Texas. Um, but it does help them see where they line up against, the rest of the teams, some of the bigger players in college football. Tennessee obviously beat Alabama, as you said earlier, uh, which kind of shapes up a new top 10, a new set of rankings that was kind of different than I guess people expected. Oregon's at number one as the new number one. Georgia behind them. Uh, with Penn State, Ohio State, Texas falling down four slots to five.
Yeah.
Miami at six. Tennessee. jumping 4 spots to 7, LSU, Clemson, and Iowa State, rounding out the top 10. Um, any surprises there? I'm going to throw out BYU at 11 and Indiana at number 13 as undefeated.
I know Navy is 25, right?
Uh, actually, uh, Army, Navy, and Vanderbilt are 23, 24, and 25 respectively
I'll be
in the
honest with you,
rankings.
that to me personally is the shocker. Like having Army, Navy, and you said it was Air Force?
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt, yeah. Like, I mean, you got Army, that's Army and Navy are two schools that are rarely ever ranked because again, they're military schools. We're not looking at them for college football playoff or anything like that, but the fact that they're ranked and they're both undefeated. Now I saw something where if Army and Navy go the whole year undefeated and then they play each other, whoever loses could be taken out of the college football playoff, and whoever wins gets inserted in, which would be crazy for the college football world because their game takes place, I believe, after the college football playoff is announced. Because their
Um,
final game is after they do the announcements of who's in the college football playoff, if I'm not mistaken.
it is on the 14th. Um,
So
how will that work?
that's a scenario that I've seen a couple other studios talk about is it's like they're both undefeated, so they both have cases to be put into the college football playoff, respectively. They're both undefeated. They're both ranked in the top 25. Why do they not have a chance? But then it's the fact that you look at their schedule. They play on the 14th. If you put Army in, but Army loses, would that not put Navy in Army's place?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that's a
So
new
it's going to be
scenario.
really interesting going forward with the college football playoff with that game. If they both stay undefeated, those are going to be two teams that I would suggest everyone pay attention to.
And
Just
they're
pay
in the
attention to them in news. Like, you don't have to watch every single game, but like just pay attention to see who wins and who loses going forward in their games
You want to hear
because
another kicker? They're both in the
what's
same
that?
conference.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yes.
they're in the American Conference.
Yeah, they
And
are.
I wonder how that's going to work because I I'm pretty sure they also have a conference championship.
Yeah. Which is before their game.
Hmm.
I
I didn't think
believe
about
that
that.
the conference championship for the American is before the 14th.
Well, that's an interesting thing that I completely
So
forgot
again,
about.
I also, and that's the other part that was part of it is they're undefeated. So they go the whole year undefeated. They meet in the conference championship. Just say Army wins the championship, the college championship, but then Navy wins that last game. They both have the same record. Now what do you do? One's the conference championship, but one beat the conference championship champion after the championship game. How do you justify one being in over the other other than a conference championship?
Hmm. That's a tough question, but I'm glad I'm not making the
That's
decision.
that is those are the two schools that I will say for the rest of the year. Just kind of check in on. If they stay undefeated, it's going to be part of what I think is going to start being great college football again. I love the idea of this 12 team playoff. Oh, it's bringing it all back. The nostalgia I'm feeling from watching the reveals of the top four. Like before now, it was just like, all right, who's in the top four? Same suspects. All right, cool. I'll just watch the national championship game. It is what it is. But I feel more invested into watching every single game of this college football playoff this year than I think I have in a while.
It feels like it's a mix between the BCS era and the current era of the college football playoff with at-large bids, conference championship bids. things of that nature. But I almost forgot about some news that happened today regarding the NFL. There was a few trades, um,
Yes.
both uh going with DeAndre Hopkins being shipped from Tennessee to the Kansas City Chiefs,
To
aka
Mr.
the
Eight
Death Star,
Interception Bum Patrick Mahomes.
aka the Death Star, who's looking to three-peat, and everyone's questioning why help the Chiefs. The Titans also made another trade. They sent Ernest Jones the fourth to Seattle and helped them get a better linebacker. And it seems to be a somewhat of a fire sale in Tennessee. But the more interesting thing that's got everyone up in arms about is why would the Titans help out the Kansas City Chiefs?
I'll be honest with you. For me, it's more the fact that they just want to like. I think for them, they don't want to hold DeAndre Hopkins back from possibly getting a ring. And DeAndre could have not requested it, but in the way he could have talked to the organization, it could have been where they just feel like he needed to be traded. It was just best for both sides. Try and get as much as they can out of DeAndre Hopkins as possible. So, I don't want to read too much into it, but I feel like it was more just to let him get out and do his thing than anything.
This was flipped for a fifth round pick. That's a conditional if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl and if DeAndre Hopkins plays 60% of the snaps, the Titans will get a fourth round pick. The DeAndre Hopkins was a he was happy in Nashville. Obviously, they weren't going to win Jack Jiddly squat, being at 1-5. Pretty much the outlook for the team was pretty horrible. I will say that why did they trade to the Chiefs? They've already made a trade earlier this year to get L'Jarius Sneed, obviously for a third round pick. Um and pretty much I they wanted to do right by DeAndre Hopkins. This is probably going to be the closest or his best chance to actually win a Super Bowl. His closest he's ever been, funny enough, or I guess ironic enough, was against the Chiefs in the divisional round when he was with the Texans, and they lost a 24-point lead to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs pretty much went to the Super Bowl and won that year. And so doing right by DeAndre Hopkins is part of it. And also, there's a little bit, uh, there's more disdain, because for the GM, not for the GM towards the Ravens or anything like that, but as a as a way to represent, I guess, some of like the fans of the Titans. The Titans fans have a greater disdain for the Baltimore Ravens than they do for the Kansas City Chiefs. To be honest, we're all like, there's a lot of people would rather, I guess, Titans fans would rather root for the Kansas City Chiefs than the Baltimore Ravens to win anything. Like, even with Derrick Henry on the Ravens, they love Derrick Henry, but they hate the Ravens. And that's part of why the trade didn't happen last year, gifting the Ravens Derrick Henry mid-season to be able to make a run at last year's championship. Obviously, the Chiefs knocked them out of that, and so the Chiefs get an older receiver, but a receiver that he might not beat the press. He might not beat press coverage. He might not, you know, run past anybody on the field, but he's a he's a receiver that has great balls. I guess, elite ball skills, and he's going to win those one-on-one matchups. He had 1,000 yards last year with not a great quarterback situation. Imagine him with a top 10 quarterback, essentially a top five quarterback in the league, throwing him the football. I think it helps out Travis Kelce. It helps out Xavier Worthy not having to be a true number one receiver, especially as a rookie who's still trying to learn the route tree. D-Hop mentoring him is going to be very helpful to him. And I think the wide receiver market, there's a lot of wide receiver injuries. Uh, Brandon Ayuk tore his ACL. Debo Samuel,
He was pneumonia,
out
but
with pneumonia.
he could possibly play Sunday. That's word on the street is that even if he missed today, but uh he's not ruled out.
There's also Mike Evans being out to week 11,
Chris Godwin,
and Chris
RIP,
Godwin,
RIP his ankle.
and yeah, Chris Godwin being hurt obviously for the rest of the year. Um, and so even within the Chiefs, there was injuries. Hollywood Brown being injured pretty much from the jump. The ghost of Juju Smith-Schuster, he
Isaiah
somehow got
Pacheco.
hurt. He somehow got hurt. Isaiah Pacheco got hurt. So they're in a not so good spot.
So now I gotta
Um,
ask you about the couple other rumors that are out there. Stafford to the Vikings. What are your thoughts?
um,
Because I got some thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts.
I don't even think that I don't know if it's worth it, honestly, for the Vikings because, you know, he's obviously a good quarterback, but Sam Darnold hasn't done anything to lose his job. They were literally undefeated until last week, where Jared Goff put off a masterclass in quarterbacking for the second week in a row. So that's not on Sam Darnold. It's just a heavyweight battle. The Lions just ended up winning the NFC North, or I guess the NFC.
NFC
Yeah, the
North.
NFC North. It's just stacked with talent, It's- which kind of sucks for the Bears fans because they finally got a quarterback, and look where you know, it took, they had to sacrifice people to get that quarterback, and that sacrifice
Once
was
upon a
literally for
time, they had
nothing.
a great quarterback.
Yeah,
Jay Cutler, man.
he was a gunslinger, but
Jay Cutler. He just didn't have any other weapons. He had Devin Hester and
he was
Brandon
the
Marshall for a short time, but he ain't have anyone else.
I guess we could call him a little bit of a Brett Favre light.
So my thing with Matthew Stafford is I really don't want to see him teamed up with Justin Jefferson because that's going to be crazy. Like seeing Justin Jefferson being able to make any quarterback look good, Matthew Stafford doesn't need him to look good, but you team up Matthew Stafford with Justin Jefferson, I'm kind of scared to see that team up. But the other rumor out of the Rams, Cooper Kupp. What are your thoughts?
I don't think he gets dealt. Uh, well, especially not to the Chiefs because his
Just
contract
if
was
he
too
does,
high.
where do you think he'd be going?
That's a tough
Because I think
question.
that's the other thing we have to factor into some of this is like Matthew Stafford is an older quarterback, but he's very good starting quarterback. He's still elite quarterback level. So like what's in the cards for a trade with him? Cooper Kupp. He was a Triple Crown winner when they won the Super Bowl. So what is he gonna be worth? Especially his contract. So
That's tough because all the teams that would need a wide receiver are in the NFC. One of them is their rival, so that's not going to happen. So they're pretty much kind of stuck with both of them for the most part. I mean, I don't think there's a team that should be grabbing Matthew Stafford at the moment that need the quarterback because if they needed one, they they're probably not in a position to put Matthew Stafford in a like I say safe position to say the least.
You don't think he'd be safe in Minnesota?
He'd be safe in Minnesota would be the point. Sam Darnold's dealing. He's pretty much saying, "Oh, Justin Jefferson's over there. Oh, ha 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 ha. I'm gonna just throw it over there, and it works out."
So now,
Seems
what what do you think the odds are that the Jets move Garrett Wilson?
uh
I don't
very
think it's
low,
very high, but
very low.
what who would be a player then that you could see them accepting trade talks and possibly doing the trade?
For Garrett Wilson or a different
Garrett
player on the
Wilson.
Jets. Uh,
So like something that they're saying no, we're not going to trade Garrett Wilson, but then this team like X team offers X player because they want Garrett Wilson. What
um,
or they offer X. What is X that makes the Jets just go, all right, well, we can't say no to this?
a first round pick. And it would have to be to the NFC. So it would have to be to Tampa Bay or the 49ers. But it looks like the 49ers are back on they're on their off year pretty much. Every other year. Somehow they all get injured and sent to the hospital for the year. So I don't see them going anywhere. That's kind of how that is. But on that note, I guess I will say thank you guys for watching,
We appreciate
slash
it
listening,
very much.
and please leave a like and subscribe, and we will be back next week, hopefully with some good news. Hopefully,
Leave a
another
comment.
win.
Let us know who you think would be a big blockbuster trade. Who would be a big blockbuster trade for you?
And that'll be all. So see you.